Star of Fox's X-Men 2, Brian Cox, who of course played William Stryker, the main foe of Wolverine in that film, was recently interviewed about the status of Hollywood, and he says that Marvel, and to an extent DC, are the death of creativity and the death of films and Hollywood.
So yeah, let's talk about Brian Cox, who most people that are following this channel or know comic book films will probably remember from X-Men 2, X-Men United, or X2, X-Men United, whichever title you had in your region. Either way though, most of you know that Brian Cox of course played the character of William Stryker, who is integral to the creation of Wolverine and was the main villain of X-Men 2. Well, Cox was recently on hand to talk a little bit more about what's going on with the industry, and he was talking with the Hollywood Reporter about Marvel and DC specifically. And he specifically blames both of those companies, but more so Marvel, for what they've done to Hollywood and how the industry is in a bad way thanks to comic book films. And he says that the comic book genre has taken the industry and made it something that's more or less unbearable because it's all about being grandiose. And that if you want true cinema, you now have to go to TV, where he plugs the TV show that he's a part of. And he specifically talked about how these comic book films are ruining the industry and setting it back, which doesn't make sense to me, as year over year, it's popular IPs, like comic book stuff, that's saving the industry, you know? And he even talks about how he was part of X-Men 2, but that he just doesn't really want to talk about that, and it's a different thing. Because he remembers, oh yeah, I'm kind of responsible for creating Wolverine in those films, so I guess it's a thing. And then he just talks about how comic book films are all the same thing, how they're diluted, and how you get nothing new from them, which tells me exactly what you need to know. He hasn't watched them. Right? Like, he hasn't watched them. Clearly. How many more times can somebody show you examples of, let's put out 4 films, just off the top of my head. Joker, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Eternals. Show me a correlation between the 4 of those without just they're based on comic books. They're so different from one another, but again, you have people who are just like, I hate these things because they're all the same in their comic book films, not realizing that comic books, just like any other medium, consists of various genres, types of products, and various different ways to tell stories, you know? So, we're never going to get away from this, and it's just going to be something that we hear about every single year when there's a successful comic book film and somebody else has to follow that up with their own project. Rest assured, the next time Martin Scorsese has a film or TV series or something he's working on, when it's coming out, he's going to be on it.